Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Three Rivers Financial Wellness Podcast. My name is Austin, and I am here in the studio with Ashley.
Hey, everybody.
And today we are going to talk about courage. And the line of the episode is, you don't have a money problem, you have a courage problem. So we're coming at you, but not with judgment. We're coming at you because we love you and we want to help you do better. So, Ash, tell me, what are your initial thoughts?
Well, I have anxiety talking about it, to be honest with you.
Same.
Yeah. I think a lot of times in life, not just money, but the things that we should be doing that we're not, it's because we're not being bold enough and having enough courage to do it. Whether it's the right thing and nobody's watching, or I just don't have enough energy to do it. It's a lack of courage to get it done. So I see it in myself all the time. So it's not a like pointing my finger at you. It's more,
We all have the problem.
Yeah.
That's why we made such a general statement of you being everyone, because everyone has a level of them that doesn't want to take the next step or doesn't want to do the next thing for several reasons, right? But courage, I think, is typically a really big one. And I think if we're going to step back, first we have to define, in a couple weeks ago we talked about fear. And so I think we have to define, what is courage? Courage is taking action in the face of fear. It's not that fear isn't there, it's that we take action regardless. So I think a lot of times the inclination with money is to not do anything. And Ashley, I think you would be able to weigh in a little bit, why do you think that's our natural inclination, is to do nothing or to not take action?
I think it's out of safety and security. It's better to have $100 in the bank than to have zero. I used to be on our retail sales team that works a lot with businesses. And so we heard a lot from folks who won't kind of take the dive to start your own business. They kind of have some thoughts in place and they know that there's a nugget in there that could be good, but they just won't jump. And I think it is that fear, we're all worried about security and families and your kids and all that stuff. But I've really found the times where I've really been bold and said, hey, here's what I want to do. This will fill my bucket. Even though it's maybe not my role or what kind of makes sense. Those are the times where I've been wildly successful. Honestly, the podcast is one of those things.
Yeah.
This came out of us going, I think we should try this thing. And now here we are a couple years later, it's a real actual podcast. So
we're sitting here doing.
It came out of having a little bit of courage to say, I think there's a nugget here that we could really help some people and think about financial wellness and talk about it in a different way. Somebody once told me, if you have anxiety about something, you worry for a week for a 20-second problem. And if you can just get through 20 seconds of fear or anxiety, then you're going to feel so much better about it and you're going to be accomplished. So how do you work on that skill to get that week to be 3 days or 2 days or 1 day? And obviously it depends on the action that you're working on. It might be different, but how do you shrink the fear and anxiety of it and get through that 20 seconds? Whether it's, I don't know how to talk to somebody new or shake their hand, or it's, I don't know how to have this hard conversation with my kids. So all of that worry and anxiety can go out the door.
When it's just one moment.
You just have to do it.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit like with procrastination. I'm admittedly, I put stuff off. But sometimes I'm like, man, if I would have just done that on Tuesday, like I promised myself I would, then Wednesday, Thursday, Friday would have been way better.
Right. It wouldn't have carried over. Something you said that it reminds me of a quote, and I wish I could find it, but it's I think it's from the movie. There's a movie to build a zoo or to own a zoo or something like that. I would have to look it up. But there's a quote in there that's sometimes all you need is 20 seconds of insane, audacious, I'm totally butchering the quote, but insane, completely unhinged bravery.
Yeah.
And I think that's so true, because sometimes we just need that one moment where we're I'm going in, I'm taking this step, I'm taking the action. And I think we really have to weigh, what is the cost of inaction? Because oftentimes we think that we are, talked about safety, stability, dignity, those kinds of things that cause inaction. But we have to think, what's really the cost of inaction? Because I think if we reflect in 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, and we're I didn't act, cost of inaction is a lot higher than the cost of action. And something you said is that when you've taken the risk, when you've made the jump, that's actually been moments that you've been wildly successful. I want to argue, even if you take the step and you're not wildly successful, maybe it's a complete failure, that to me is still success. Because if you don't take the action, you're always going to wonder, what would have happened? What if I had given it a try? But if you give the action a try, then you're going to find out exactly what happens. You're out of the uncertainty. We actually, as humans, suffer more with uncertainty and ambiguity than we do a clear no or a clear failure or a clear disaster.
Yes, being in that limbo is
the hardest.
So hard. Yes.
Because we don't know what's going to happen. We're sitting in the ambiguity of it. Our brain loves conclusions. Our brain loves closure and conclusions and endings of stories. And that's why we so often rush through the episode. And that's why they've done such a good job of every episode of TV that we're watching. They leave it with a cliffhanger that makes you want to watch the next one, because your brain cannot tolerate not knowing. When we have to sit in not knowing, there's a real cost to that.
Yeah.
We need to be better about sitting in the not knowing, because sometimes the courageous action, you might not know the result for a year or 2 years or 5 years or 10 years or 20. Sometimes it's really long timelines with this. So we have to train our bodies and our minds that it's okay to sit in the ambiguity for a period of time. It's okay to sit in the uncertainty. What's not okay is the ambiguity and the uncertainty to be the reason that we avoid taking a step at all.
One of the things that I think has been highlighted at Three Rivers, at least I think I've learned it over time, but especially here, is being okay with being in the learning, if that makes sense. Sometimes the courage doesn't come because we're afraid that we're going to be wrong or we're going to do something incorrectly. And Don is so big on how are we learning every single day? And it's something that my husband and I are working on at home too. We just had a big thing this weekend, and I was like, it's okay. You've never done that before. You're allowed to learn,
yeah.
And so he's a pretty perfectionist kind of person. So we had a big talk about it. Everybody's learning every single day, and you can't expect you to be perfect all the time, let alone on anything.
Right.
I think that focus on how am I learning every day is part of what gives me courage to try stuff and to figure it out. That's a big piece of, I've really felt supported at Three Rivers from my leaders to say, try it. It's okay.
Oh, yeah.
Let's learn from it. So how do we take what we learned from yesterday's experiment and make today better? And whether that's with your money or your relationships, whatever that looks like. For me at work, it's financial wellness. So we're trying all kinds of things to figure out what does work. How do we help people get to the next step? And how should we talk about that? What I think we have learned so far, and what will probably stick, is it's real life conversation, me and you having a real relationship and talking about money. That's what helps people.
When we talk about courage, I think sometimes the courage is what's the step that you can take, right? Maybe it is a conversation. Maybe it's just a conversation that you've avoided having. Maybe it's with a spouse. Maybe you need to come into Three Rivers and talk to someone. Maybe it's with a friend. Whatever the case may be, maybe the courageous next step for you is just to talk about it. I think sometimes we picture it's got to be this massive, huge scale thing. And it's really, you don't build courage by doing outlandish things. You do build courage by doing outlandish things, but often you build confidence and courage by doing several small things that you didn't think that you could do. It's typically built in small progressions. I'll kind of tie it to my own journey of when I was really focused on my personal health. It didn't start with going to the gym 7 days a week and doing all these crazy things. It started with I can go for a walk in the morning. Then the next morning when I was oh yeah, that's tolerable. I can go outside and go for a walk right now. That built confidence in myself. Oh, I can take that small step. It's the same thing with finances. It's not that we need some burn down the building. Sometimes people maybe need that, and maybe some people in that situation, but more often than not, it's what's one small thing? What's one small conversation? What's one next step that I can take?
I've said a lot to, especially our new friends at Three Rivers, people who are just starting working here. Financial wellness is about doing the small right thing every day for a long period of time. There's lots of books about it, but the concept basically is if you're saving a small amount of money over the next 30 years, you'll be a millionaire by the time you retire, right? So that's one big example, but it's also every paycheck I deposit $50 so that I can have enough to go on vacation or whatever that, celebrate at Christmas time, whatever that is. It sometimes feels a little boring to have courage.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Yeah.
But like that little stuff is courageous to say, no, we're not going to go out to dinner tonight because we're going to put that $50 in our savings account so that we can have that success later. That delayed gratification is so important too. But I think that courage comes from mundane, everyday decisions that you're making.
And as you stack the right decisions, confidence increases.
Absolutely.
Courage increases.
Yeah.
You start to prove to yourself. Confidence doesn't come from an internal belief system. It comes from proving to yourself that I'm going to do this, right? Like you don't just wake up one day like, oh my gosh, my thought process changed. Like you have to prove it to yourself. No, I wish it would. But no, I have to prove to myself every day by the actions that I'm taking, I'm capable of this, or I'm able to make a change, or I'm able to do this or move forward, or whatever the case might be. But with finances, it's even more important, or maybe not more important, but it's equally as important to build that by the small actions that we take every day. Like I said, some people, they need big actions, right? Maybe it's closing cards, maybe it's opening something, maybe it's doing some kind of consolidation, whatever the case may be. Some people need big actions. 99% need several small actions over time.
Mm-hmm. It's funny you mentioned the We Bought a Zoo. I thought of the Cowardly Lion in The Wizard of Oz.
Yeah.
If you think about how like scared and anxious he was in the beginning of the movie, and then at the end he's kind of like, oh, you had courage all along, look at what you did. Like, to me, that's a huge piece of this, especially when it ties to your money. Like, you have courage all along, you're just not seeing it in that way. To me, that's the big challenge this week, is figure out where do you have courage currently, and then also figure out where do you need to have more courage. So what is that situation that you can do in the next couple weeks? So I need to have courage in this conversation, or in saving with my money, or being honest about something. So identify that piece where you need some more courage, and then take action on it. So I'm excited to hear how it goes.
Yeah, awesome. We'll see you guys next week.
Bye, guys.
Thanks for listening to the Three Rivers Financial Wellness Podcast. While we're excited that you join us on this journey of financial wellness, we do need to give you a short disclaimer. This podcast is for informational purposes only and isn't intended as financial, tax, or investment advice. Be sure to consult your own experts before making financial decisions. Three Rivers is federally insured by the NCUA and is an equal housing lender.